good morning and welcome to another week on my Hanley plotter allotment. It's Sunday the 30th of June today, so we're halfway through the year. So really this sort of time is about taking stock of where I've got to, how my crops are doing, what have I done right, what have I done wrong, and about making sure I maximise the pleasure I get from the plot and the crop. It's a time of taking stock. I would like to just say I've watched a few of other gardeners' videos, notably Charles Dowding, who introduced this next subject to me, and then the American lady who lives on the Isle of Wight. I'm sorry I don't know her name, but her video channel is called Lovely Greens, and I enjoy watching her. She's very knowledgeable, and actually she mentioned this as well, and I think she picked it up from Charles Dowding, and I've got to read the word, and it's about aminopyralids, and that's a herbicide that is used on grass. It's not just a UK matter, this is worldwide. I know it's used in America, and the herbicide is used on the grass, and horses in particular, but cattle also, eat this grass, and the aminopyralid herbicide works its way through the animal into its manure. That manure is then used to make commercial composts, and people, Charles Dowding and other people, are using these composts and finding that it is stunting the growth of their crops, particularly tomatoes, potatoes, beans. So, you know, the people are saying get the word out. The RHS, the Royal Horticultural Society, and others are saying get the word out there. Make sure you're aware. I don't think it's widespread. I don't think, you know, you'd be unlucky to suffer it, but it's out there. It's in commercial composts, I suppose, specifically those that include horse and cattle manure as part of the mix. Just be aware of it, and if you've got a stunted crop for one reason or another, then just consider that as a possibility and look at your compost. And I would recommend, if you buy compost in the near future, then speak to the people in the garden centre or the person you're buying it from, and just ask them about where they get it from and reputable sources. So I just thought I'd mention that aminopyralids, just another danger of herbicides, fungicides and pesticides. Yes, so that's enough on that. Another whole day on the plot. I was a bit lazy this morning. I woke up quite early. I set the alarm for my ridiculously early start, as always. It never goes off, as I've mentioned before, and I just thought, oh, I'm going to stay in bed a bit longer, and that's what I did. So it's now, well, it's 5 to 6 and I've just got up here. And again, looking forward to another great day. So, as I mentioned, taking stock. Before I go on to that, I'd just like to say a special hello to anyone from the Royal Air Force who's watching. I know I've got at least one subscriber, I believe, and other personnel watch these videos, which is really strange. So, good morning to you all. So yes, taking stock, lessons learned. I was thinking about this as I was driving in this morning, but it only takes me 7 minutes, so I didn't think about it for long. It's probably best I don't. But what would I say were my main lessons learned this year? I think the first and probably the overarching biggest lesson is to be patient. And I know it's one of my failings, but like all gardeners and allotmenteers, I like to get things in soon. You know, they grow on in the greenhouse, they get to a decent sized plant, and I want to get them in the ground. And I have got to learn, and I'm thinking now really specifically about the squashes, I've got to learn to just hang on. I've got some up here with me today that have been in the greenhouse for a few months now, and they're really looking good. And of course the weather now is warm. Yesterday was the hottest day of the year. It was up in the 30 degrees centigrades all over the UK. So now is a good time to be putting them out, and I've really made an effort this year as well, or with these ones specifically, to harden them off. They've been going out every morning and going back in every evening. So, and I've never done that with any crop. So those are really simple lessons to learn. I knew about them, you know, hardening crops off. So I think with my squashes that have really taken a step back from when I put them in, those are lessons I didn't really need to learn. I knew about them. Wait another month, put them out when the weather is genuinely hot. You're not beating anything. All that happens is they take a step back and they're retarded in their growth. And if I'd have kept them in the greenhouse for another month, I'd be putting them out now with lush, strong growth. The slugs can't make that much of an effect on them. So yeah, that's a big lesson that I've learned again this year, and I really must make an effort with next year. Just wait a little bit longer. There's enough people on YouTube, people like Cliff on Castle Hill Garden, who if you follow them and do it when they do it, the chances are you won't go far wrong. So yeah, that's the main lesson. I've also obviously learned a lesson with my broad beans. I planted them in a block like I did with my the sweet corn, and there's been a lack of air circulation in amongst them, and the black fly decimated the flowers, and therefore it didn't set fruit. So I've got some more seed sown of broad beans in the greenhouse at home. If they germinate, great. If not, just put it down to another lesson learned. So yeah, be a bit more intelligent about how I plant out the crops. Another one is this new garlic spray that I'm making. I made another lot yesterday, so I've got some concentrate in a old squash bottle, and I'm going to give all the leaves of the vulnerable crops a good spray of garlic water today. Essentially all I do is I put about 4 garlic cloves in a small pan of water. I crush them up and put the whole lot in with all the bits and pieces off the bulb, and I boil it on a running boil for about 20 minutes, and then I put a strainer over a funnel, pour it off when it's cooled into the squash bottle, and then I use that to dilute into a hand pump spray gun, and I just spray it on all the leaves, and apparently the slugs don't like it. So I've done it once about a week ago, and I'm going to do it again today. And it's, you know, it's organic. Garlic's good for us all. So I'm going to give that another go. So that's another thing I've learned, a positive thing, not a mistake I've made, but it's just something I can do on an organic plot to give the crops a fighting chance. So I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to get the kettle on. I'm going to take you straight away on a full tour of the plot, and we'll go from there. Right, to work. I've just looked up. It's not going to be a sunny day, it's going to be a cloudy day, but the sun is shining right now, and look at that sky. There's a real colour in that. Really stunning. So here I am at the end of the plot, and here's a rhubarb that I took from a friend's garden, and with their permission, I hasten to add, and I transplanted it up here, and it wilted and dropped, and it looked pretty sad, but we've had that heavy rain about a week or two ago, and it's really picked up, and it's looking good. My main crop potatoes, so far, blight free. I'll need to have another look around it today, but they're flowering, and they're looking good, so far. Mystic, the dwarf French bean, really coming on well, lots of flowers, so they'll be setting the fruit soon, hopefully, or the pods. And the leeks that I've put around the edge, for those of you that follow me regularly will remember that I said I'm going to suffer with these leeks because I've put them so close together I can't hoe. But actually I have been down on my hands and knees several times and giving it a good weed, and they're looking all right and they're getting away, so I'm pleased with that. More main crop potatoes, looking wonderful. The blackberry crop behind them, looking forward to that. So that's the new piece of ground. Moving through to the main 2 plots, and these 2 courgette plants could not look more healthy, growing in the old compost heaps, and in fact you've only got to be away a day That's courgette, zucchini. I find if these old flowers are left on, they can tend to rot the tips of the courgette. So once the flowers have done their job, I tend to pull them off. So I believe this is called tree spinach. Bridget gave it to me. Edible leaves. I need to be taking more of that. So the arch with my runner beans. We're getting near the top. I take an immense amount of pleasure out of watching these come together. I should have a sort of a joining ceremony when they reach each other in the middle. But I'm really enjoying watching them. I don't think too much about the crop. I'm liking it as an architectural feature. Sweet corn's looking good. And there's 2 ridge cucumber plants in there. And they're recovering from the initial dip they took. Beetroot round the edges. I'm really pleased with this bed. It's looking really good. Now these are the broad beans I've got left, and because they're planted so loosely, there's lots of air movement around them, and the black fly have almost nothing. I mean, I haven't pinched the tip of this one out. Look, absolutely nothing on it. And to think that just 20 yards away, I lost every single broad bean plant, every single one, not a single, well, there was about half a dozen pods on them, and that was it. So I've emptied the bed, and there's 2 butternut squash plants gone in. Other courgette plants here. In fact, that's really bad timing on that slug's part. See that? He's sitting there munching on the flower before he gets to the plant. And off camera, he's met his end. But more courgettes. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, moving on. I almost feel guilty about that. Almost. Second early potatoes, Charlotte, looking forward to those. Red onions, again, absolutely ginormous. Crikey, that onion alone could feed a family for a week. Put some spare peas in here and some celeriac. Never grown celeriac, and it doesn't look like I'll be growing that one anymore either, but there you go. I'll give them, obviously being of the celery family, they do like a lot of water. They're a bog plant, so I shall give them another drink today. And the lettuce and celery that I just bunged in at the bottom of these peas is looking good. Now let's talk about purple snap pea magnolia. I had no idea it was going to grow this tall. That's now, I'm going to guess and say 7 to 8 feet high. And it collapsed. It fell over this other support here in the high winds. And with Barry's help, I've managed to force it back up, and it's sort of hanging on. I was afraid that they would snap because they're very tender, those shoots, and I thought they'd all snap, but it's a few days since we did it and they look okay, so I've managed to save it. Thank you, Barry. And yeah, I've got a fair crop coming on these. Never grown these, never eaten them, but I'm going to take a picking today, and I would thoroughly recommend. I mean, I suppose I can't really recommend them till I've eaten them, but as a plant on the plot, it's wonderful. I'm also hoping I'll be able to pick some other peas today, the more conventional garden peas, because they're looking really good. As is this bed of leeks. Wonderful. Moving across to the squashes, the pumpkins here. I'm really pleased. They've recovered. They're looking a lot healthier. You can see there's a few yellowy old leaves there. I'll cut those off today, keep the slugs off them, and of course I'll give them that garlic spray. But yeah, they're looking a lot better. And the one in the top left corner up there, that one there, is a cucumber. Didn't realise that till I put it in, but there you go. Yes, the butternut squashes, and this is what I'm talking about. These anemic, suffering plants that it's my fault, I put them out way too early and they're suffering for it. But I've learned that lesson. I shall remember it next year, and I won't put out any squashes until the end of June. Moving right along. Oh, I'm getting a bit more slug damage on these. Ah, but they're starting to heart up. So, these are the red cabbage. Club root resistant. Ladero is the variety. Oh, look. Another slug. He's not actually on the crop. He's stuck outside, so he won't be able to get near them. But yeah, I've got normal cabbages in here, Killerton and cauliflower, I think it's Clapton, and another slug. You get up here early in the morning and you catch them out. Another one bites the dust. And then, oh look, and another one. How frustrating for the poor thing. Can't get on the crops because of the enviromesh. Yep. So yeah, the Brussels sprouts are looking good. And then we come to these assorted beds with ishikuri, spring onions, lettuce, radish. Put in some pak choy that Barry gave me there, and they're starting to move. This spinach is just about done, but I've been picking those small leaves and putting them in strawberry smoothies that we're enjoying. So they've not been a complete loss. Lamb's lettuce, I believe. No, corn salad in there. And then the blueberries, looking good. Without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest success to date so far has been the strawberries. We have had punnet after punnet of strawberries. I've given them away to people, which I took a lot of pleasure in doing. And yeah, a really good crop. Where the daffodils were in the spring, I've thrown in a few radish. Looks like the slugs have eaten most of those. But parsnips are looking good. And we've had our first picking of beetroot, and Cheryl has got those in the mason jars in the balsamic vinegar, and we're starting to eat those with our salads. So that's all good news. Looking forward to what looks like a really good crop of beetroot this year. And then the French climbing beans. And it's been a mixed story. I have to say, I mean, these really didn't move for a few weeks. But they've got a bit of a shift on now, and they're on their way up the poles. I don't know what this browning on the leaves is. If anybody knows and they could leave me a comment to make it clear to me, I'd be interested. But out of all those, I've lost this one pair of plants here, chewed away. But, you know, if you'd have told me that before I planted them, I'd have taken that. All the rest have got away. And as long as this browning of the leaves isn't fatal, in fact, I'll cut them off today and remove them from sight. Maybe that'll stop it spreading. But yeah, they're okay. And more onions. And these sweet peas are an odd looking batch. All the same plant, all the same variety, sown on the same day. Some of them are a couple of inches high. And this one plant, I've got some lovely flowers on it. But they're really stunted. They should be up around my shoulders now. And then the gooseberries, a really good crop of gooseberries. Again, we've had a few pickings. We've had a gooseberry crumble already, and Cheryl's frozen a load. and you know, we'll eat those through the winter in a crumble. A crumble's really a lovely thing for a cold winter's day. So that's pretty much all the food. And you know, an allotment is a trial and a tribulation. You know, if you don't like failure, don't have an allotment. But I get an immense amount of joy out of every aspect of it. And here, as I've waited over the months, look at those. Stunning. And as always, the pond just keeps on giving. I've seen lots of tiny little frogs in there now. And every now and again when I walk past it, something splashes and scurries away into the water. And I absolutely love it. So I hope that gives you an idea of how things are going. A mixed bag, but on the whole, very happy. Things are progressing well, and it's now the time of plenty. Well, it's that wonderful time, and I'm starting to pick the purple snap pea, magnolia. Lovely little crop, perfect for tea tonight. I said in a previous video that I was trying this garlic wash to try and dissuade the slugs, and I made some up over the weekend, and here it is in an old squash bottle. I won't take the lid off just yet, it absolutely reeks. So all I've done, as I've said before, is I've boiled up some cloves of garlic, 3 or 4 cloves in a normal saucepan, and they are on a rolling boil for about 20 minutes, and I let it cool down, sieved off or filtered off the bits, and this is what I've got, just pure garlic water. And I'm going to pop this in this spray bottle, I don't know, about a 4-to-1 mix maybe, and then just spray some of the more vulnerable leaves that the slugs like to nibble on. I've done it once before, a week ago. I think it's made a difference. That it's always difficult to tell, it's a very subjective thing, because most of the plants have already got holes out of them. But like I say, I've done it the once. I think it's working, so I'm going to give it another go, and we'll see how we get on. But I would recommend it to other people. It's completely organic, it's just garlic, and I think it works. Obviously the more it rains, the more you've got to reapply, but boiling up a few cloves of garlic isn't the hardest job in the world, so I'm going to go and do that now. Well, that's what's going home today. Very pleased. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for those that have subscribed, I appreciate it. And don't forget to hit the like button if you can. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.